Hey everybody, what's going on? It is James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I've got your Bitcoin / cryptocurrency update for January the 13th. So I went this morning, had my MRI. I'm not sure what's up with doctors. Friday they were making it sound like it was like this life or death thing, and that if the MRI looked bad, they're going to send me straight for surgery. I got the MRI, and they're like, okay, we'll let you know. So who knows what's going on with that. I'm back home. I figured, hey, I'm going to work until they tell me otherwise. So got home. This is the first chance I've had to really sit down and look at the charts. So a little less prepared than I normally am, but I wanted to get this out to you. So we'll kind of go through it, and I'll kind of do the analysis on the fly. So the first chart that I want to look at is going to be this 3-day chart, because price did something that it has not done in quite some time. It closed above my little red box. Now, I'm not panicking. I'm not super concerned about that, because if you look back here in September, it did the same thing. It closed just a smidge above it, right around 54 RSI. Right here in October, it closed, just a smidge above it at 53.68. And yesterday's candle closed at 54.53. So, whenever you draw a support or a resistance, it's more of like a zone. It's not exact, right? I mean, now listen, if it breaks above it, a couple of RSI, that's, outside the zone. But as long as it's close, I'm pretty comfortable saying that we're still, within this zone here. And a few people have asked about this zone. Guys, all I've done, it's the numbers themselves aren't what's magical. All I've done is take a look at what areas acted as resistance back in 2018, and I just drew a line. So that particular line is sitting right around 53 or so. And this bottom line, same thing. I just found the area that seemed to be support, and it's down around 34.5 to 35 RSI. Okay, so for those of you that want to draw those lines in your own charts, those are those lines. The blue line is one that I think is a little bit weaker, but it did seem to act as resistance and support several times. So that's the reason it's on there. And you can see it worked out pretty well as resistance. And right here, it had a little bullish retest before moving up. So that particular line is sitting right around ballpark 43 RSI. Okay. So on the 3-day chart, the RSI, again, it still looks leaning bearish. It hasn't really convincingly broke outside of that box. On the 3-day channel, I'm still leaning bearish. You can see here that we draw it from wick to wick to wick. We're still underneath that zone. Okay, so don't really see any reason to get bullish there. This looks like a dead cat bounce in a bear market. Okay. What we want to watch for, if we want to try to figure out if this is the bottom, me personally, what I'm going to watch for is I'm going to watch and see how far this thing retraces. This move from here to here, it retraced to the 61.8 golden pocket. So what I would like to watch is what the move does from this low to this high. If it retraces back down here to this $7,400 area, number one, that's the golden pocket, right, for a long position. But number two, that was also a previous area of resistance, which is now flipped support. So if it starts finding support there, it may be time to start looking long. Okay. Now, I don't think it's going to find support there. I personally think it's going to chop right through it, just like it did the last time it pumped back in October. But that's the area I'm going to watch with a lot of interest, is down around that $7,400 to $7,500 area. Okay. So that's what I'm seeing on the 3-day chart. If we take a look at a weekly chart, of course, our week just closed last night. So let me get rid of some of these lines here. We'll talk about what's going on. So this little box here, again, people have asked what these levels are. Again, I'm just drawing them. Here's resistance back here. It was support back here in 2018. And so I just drew it out. And so far it's been respected in 2019. So this bottom line is roughly 41 RSI. And this top line is roughly 55 RSI. So interestingly enough, a few weeks ago, this thing had actually come down. It was sitting right on this, and then it pumped up and closed right here. And I said that it looks like it might want to run to the top of the box. This wick here, before it fell back down, it was sitting right up close to the top of the box. So I think that's exactly what it did. And I still suspect that, same deal. I think it's a dead cat bounce. I think we're going to go lower. And if this is indeed a bear market, then what we're lacking is the capitulation stage. Okay, I think we're probably getting close to capitulation if it's going to come, and I think it could take us down to our bottom. Right. One thing I'll remind you guys, if you haven't seen my past videos about this, if you go look on the BLX chart, one thing that's very, very telling is pretty much every single bear market in Bitcoin's 10-year history, they bottom out right when the weekly RSI gets into the oversold. Now, trading on RSI when you're trading just on oversold and overbought is normally a terrible, terrible idea, right? It's almost never a great idea to buy just because something is oversold. But in Bitcoin's case, being oversold has always been a signal that the bottom is in. And if you can line that up with some other things, for example, back here when it was oversold, it was also sitting on top of the 200 moving average, right? And it was also sitting right on top of the trend target. So you had three different things that said, hey, the bottom's probably in, and you could have taken a long position back here in December 2018. So if this thing does capitulate down into the oversold territory, especially if it's capitulating right around that 200-week moving average again, which is down around $5,100, $5,200, that's also our trend target, like I talked about in yesterday's video. Okay, if you missed that video for some reason, I'll just quickly show you what I'm talking about here. I'll put this on a log. Okay, so our trend target, that 2.618, which is where 2018 bottomed at, it's a 5110, right around the 200-week moving average. So if price gets there, at the same time that it's hitting oversold, I'd probably be looking for some long positions. Okay. If it slices through that, I think we'll go down here to this yellow line and fill in this liquidity gap down on $4,000 at least. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm saying on the weekly and the 3-day chart. If we take a look at the smaller time frames, let's look at the daily real quick. So the daily, what do we got going on the daily? Well, our 200-week moving average on the regular charts, Coinbase, BitMEX, etc., it's sitting down around $9,100. Give or take a few dollars depending on which chart you're looking at. For about, I guess, 6, maybe 7 weeks now, I've been talking about the possibility that this thing could actually pump up to test the 61.8 fib right around $9,000. And the more this thing turns down, the more that I'm not writing off that possibility. Remember, that level has a lot of importance to it because not only is it the 61.8 fib, not only is the 200-day moving average up there, but it's also this old level of support flipped resistance at 91.34. See how they're perfectly lined up? So I'm still not writing off a pump to that level. Okay, it's one reason that I'm hesitant to open any type of major short positions. Now, I know some of you are short right now, and more power to you. You got bigger courage than I do, I guess we'll say. Okay, I'm more of a cautious risk management type of guy, and I want to wait until I get confirmation that we're done pumping here. We really didn't pump as high as I thought we might. That being said, if we're looking at the CME, we did tag the 61.8 on it, right up in this golden zone, a perfect tag. We also tagged the 200-day moving average for a very nice test. It ended up being a nasty, nasty looking bear candle. Okay, so very possible the top is in, and very possible we're going to go down from here. Okay, so I am looking for setups. I'm not just sitting on my hands and waiting. The main concern I have was this neck thing and whether or not I was going to have surgery. I still don't know for sure what's going on there. Since I get the results, it'll help me kind of make a decision. But there's a lot of bearish divergences on this chart. I talked about this in a past video. You've got RSI making a higher high, price making a lower high. That's hidden bearish divergence. That's a sign that the trend is going to continue. It's a downtrend on that bigger level. So that's bearish. We also have bearish divergence right here from this close to this close. You can see that price went higher, but RSI went lower. So that's bearish in nature. And now on the 3-day chart, same deal, right? RSI put in a higher high. See this? Higher high. And price put in a much, much lower high. So that is hidden bearish divergence on the 3-day chart as well. So yeah, it's looking pretty bearish. And I do want to try to find a short setup here. I just need to look and see if I can't find some kind of pump, some kind of rally to short is what I'm looking for. So if we look at this, I don't know that we can really call this a downtrend yet. This looks like it's consolidating, which is not really what you want to see before entering a trade. But if we look at this and we try to say that this is the trend, then it's going to give us a target down around 74.91. Okay. Again, that lines up pretty nicely with that old level of support. So even if this is, even if the bottom is in and this thing is going higher, it's very likely that it will pull back to that level before it goes higher. So again, that's the reason that I'm more bearish than bullish right now, because even if you get in a short, at $8,000, and it goes down to 7,500. That's a really nice trade. So we'll see. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing, guys. On the 4-hour chart, I don't really see any divergences yet that make me want to jump into a trade. It's still consolidating on top of support, which is inherently bullish, actually. So just kind of waiting and sitting on my hands, right? Things just ranging sideways right now. So I'm looking at all these different time frames. I don't see anything. One thing I want to talk about, I should have mentioned this yesterday, and I didn't think about it until after I'd already done the video. Today is the launch of the CME options. So typically those things end up being buy the rumor, sell the news events. So this whole pump could be related to people buying the rumor, thinking that it was going to do something awesome on January 13th. And then if it doesn't, that's typically when you get the dump. This dump back here happened right around the time BACT launched. And of course, we all know, or should know by now, that the top, basically came in the day before CME launched its regular trading for Bitcoin. And or its futures for Bitcoin. And then, it dumped. So I think it probably will dump. Also, somebody pointed this out to me, and I don't know that it's true. I didn't verify it. I saw the chart, so unless they somehow manipulated the chart and faked the chart, it's accurate. But if we go over to Twitter, so two things. First, let me talk about this thing that they posted. This is the history with January. So January 2014, Bitcoin dumped 50%. January 2016, it dumped 20%. January 2017, it dumped 35%. January 2018, it dumped 45%. And January of 2019, obviously we have no idea. We do. It dumped 15%. January 2020, we don't know what's going to happen yet. But historically, January has been a red month, a very bloody month for Bitcoin. So again, I think that it's important to realize that it hasn't been the best month. I was reading this article yesterday about institutional money and kind of how they view Bitcoin. This is actually something that was put out by JP Morgan, and they basically have this model that they use to figure the intrinsic value of Bitcoin. And right now, that intrinsic value seems to be sitting right around $5,000. Again, that's a very interesting number considering it's where the 200-week moving average is, considering it's where a trend target ends up at, and everything else. It just seems like that's kind of the zone that Bitcoin wants to go to. Now, that doesn't mean it can't go below that. Obviously, price has went below the intrinsic value a few times, right? Back here, here, right? So it could absolutely dip below that, but that seems to be the price that the institutional money is looking at when they're valuing Bitcoin. So you have to ask yourself, are they going to want to pay $8,000 for something that they think is worth $5,000? The answer is probably not, okay? On the total market cap, including altcoins, just the total market cap, if we draw these trend extensions, we really, all we did was come up and test the 61.8. We didn't quite get there. It was at 220 billion. We got up to, it looks like about 218.5 billion, but close enough for me. It does look like a bearish retest, and it looks like it's probably going to want to move down from here. We have a very typical down, up, right? Staircase pattern. So the next lower low might be down around this area here, okay, around 119 billion, which would fill in this liquidity gap back here. On the altcoins, they were looking so good, but they kind of lost steam here. If we look at a log chart and we put this on a 3-day, throw our fib levels back up. No, we don't want a fan, we want extensions. That's one way to do it. I think this is the other way to do it. Okay, so if we do this, we had come up to the 1.618. We'd actually peaked above it, but if you look, it slid back down yesterday and closed right underneath that, and this looks like it popped up, had a bearish retest of already, and it looks like it's moving down. So if that's the case, then basically that's just a typical dead cat bounce before moving lower. And the next level down to watch would be down around 45 billion, okay? And I think it would probably cut through that level. We'd probably be looking closer to 40 billion. if we are going to move down another step, right? You have to remember that the way these market cycles work, there's still a lot of hopium in the marketplace when you first enter these market cycles. So you get your complacency, right? You get your balance and complacency. Not everybody's going to sell. They're still thinking that, okay, it's all good. We're getting ready to go up again. Then you get your anxiety. They're still not ready to sell. Oh, it's all good. You know, it's taking a little longer, but we'll eventually get there. Then you get your denial phase. That if that is indeed what we're in right now, is that denial phase. What comes next is people finally realize a day late and a dollar short that, holy cow, this is not a dip, this is a bear market. And that's where the panic sets in. And once people begin to panic, that's where capitulation sets in. So instead of getting a small measured move, this last move ends up being the biggest move, where you often lose, you know, as much as half of the value of the asset. So for example, if you look at Bitcoin in 2018, this is exactly what happened, right? It stayed above 6,000 all year. People were pretty comfortable. But once they realized, oh my God, it's a bear market, it's not ending. When capitulation occurred, it actually dropped 50% over the course of just a couple of weeks. So remember, if we're sitting up at 8 grand and we drop 50%, where does that put us? It puts us down around 4 grand. Where's the liquidity gap at? It's right around 4,000 to 4,100 bucks. Okay, so I think if we do drop down there, very likely it bounces right back up above that 200-week moving average. Okay, and what I'd like to see at that point is a consolidation, accumulation, and then a slow move back up. If we don't get accumulation, then what comes next is probably going to be a lower low, right? Lower than 3,000 bucks. But yeah, right now I still feel pretty firm that we are in an echo bubble, that this is playing out very textbook, that we're in denial right now, and the next stop down is going to be panic and capitulation, and it should take us, if that's what's happening, it should take us down to 4,000 or even maybe 5,000 if the bulls really step up. But I wouldn't be surprised to see 4,000 at all. Okay. If we look at, let's look at Litecoin. I have not looked at Litecoin today. Let's see if it's able to maintain its strength. It's not. If you look at it, it came up above this level of resistance, but it's popped right back underneath it. It's put in a high yesterday of 51.70. The high so far today is 51.63. That's not what you want to see. It's a reversal signal. So if today's candle closes without making a higher high, that's probably going to be the top for Litecoin for this rally. It was a really nice rally, and if you got in on it, you made a lot of money, so congratulations. I did not catch it. It's 45% move, so pretty amazing stuff. If we look at EOS, EOS popped up there, made its way all the way up to $3.21. Now it's back down to 308. That's a huge drop. That is, whoo, doggy. About 4% drop from the top yesterday. You can see it tiptoed into overbought territory. So again, probably going to end up being a dead cat bounce. I need to look closely at that because remember I do have an EOS position. I've got quite a bit of EOS. Not quite a bit. I mean, I've got maybe 1,000 or 1,100 EOS. So I'll have to look and decide if I want to let go of those and try to pick it back up around $1 or $2 if it tanks. The next level down for EOS, if you are an EOS investor or if you're not an investor but you're like thinking, hey, I want to get into EOS, here's what I would be watching out for. Let's put this on a log chart. Here's your top. Here's your top. Here's your pullback. Here's your next top. It looks like it found support on the 3272. Look how perfect this stuff is. Bam. Right. Found support there, bounced up, found support here, bounced up, all the way up to the 2.27. It looks like it found perfect resistance. And if it moves back down, I think the next lower low on this thing is going to be down around this $1.91 area. And if you're wondering why $1.91, well, number one, this is a 3.618 level, but more importantly to me, there's actually a gap sitting right down here, right? Gap sitting at $1.89, which lines up almost perfectly with that level. So that's the level that I'm really interested in on EOS, okay? Even if I get out of my position, that's the level I'll look to buy back in at. If I decide not to get out of my position, if I decide I'm just going to hold it and ride it, as low as it goes, because again, it's a free position. I already, paid for the position. I went in and out of it several times. It's literally a zero risk position. But if I hold what I have, I'll probably look to buy more EOS and add to my position down around this $1.91 area. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm watching on EOS. I haven't looked at Ethereum today, so let's take a look at Ethereum. How bad did this thing get brutalized? Let's look. Take off the moving averages because they kind of screw up the scale. If you look, I think I talked about this on a video a few days ago. Look at that resistance, right? Just like price has resistance and support, RSI has resistance and support. It had this line of resistance. It just slammed into it several times, failed to get above it, and this is actually a double top right here. Up, down, perfect M, perfect double top. All right, so if we draw some fib extensions on this sucker, let's take a look here. Few different ways to draw these. I like that. That's good enough for me. It looks like it was finding trouble at the 1.272. If you turn them into a log, it was actually, well, still the 1.272, wasn't it? Usually they're not that close. But 1.272 seems to be the problem. It's having, the area it was having problems with. And so far it's just kind of crapped out there. So not looking good for EOS. I'd say that it looks like that up move is over. And again, if we take a look at the bigger time frame on EOS and we draw out a trend, down, first pullback. This one doesn't look quite as neat as some of the other ones. It looked really good on the 1.618 with consolidation. Looked good when it found support on the 2. It did not make it to the 2.272. It just kind of played around this level here, which is a little bit strange. But I think the next leg down for this that I would be watching is going to be this $72 area. Oh, no. Completely ignore what I just said. You got to look at a log chart. If you're looking at a bigger time frame, you can't use the smaller time frames. The non-log stuff. So if we look at a proper trend, I was wondering why it looks so weird. It did find support on the 3.272. It looks like it found resistance on the 2.618. So the next level down is going to be down around 108. I think we talked about this the other day. There's actually a gap back here. It's around $106 to $110, depending on whether you're looking at a daily, a 3-day, or a weekly, right? Right in this area back here, right around that 3.618. So that's the next level of Ethereum that I'm interested in. And if I could find a good long setup down there, I might look to long Ethereum. Okay. And again, guys, remember, this is all assuming that this is indeed just a bear market rally. If the bear market is over, then all these targets are out the window, right? But right now, we haven't really broke out of our trend. We haven't put in any bullish structure. There's no real reason to flip bull right now. The way this works is rallies are for shorting in a bear market. So, until proven otherwise, I'm going to continue thinking like a bear. All right. So that's kind of what I'm saying on Ethereum, EOS, Bitcoin. Somebody did ask me to take a look at BNB, so I'll do that real quick. We'll look at the Bitcoin, the US tether pair on BNB. So this is, let's get rid of all these levels because I don't know what they are. I don't remember. Oh, look at that. Had an ascending triangle. I remember doing a video about this. I don't remember when I did it. Was it about a week ago maybe? Let's look at that. So I had a price target around $1.83, $2, something like that. Didn't quite get there, right? Didn't quite get there. Still interesting though. All right, let's kick that off. Let's take a look at the smaller trend. Log chart off, down, up, down. Looks like it hit its trend extension target, right? It was $15.24. Hit it, and now it's pulling back down. If we measure the bigger trend, so down, up, I guess. Put it on a log chart. Same deal. This one found support down on its 4 level, right? So another trend target, and it's bounced up, kind of in the middle of no man's land right here. The next target that I would be interested in on this, let's take a look here. Look at a daily chart. I'm looking for gaps is what I'm doing right now. Ignore the trend targets because they're off the log for a second. I need to look and see if I see any gaps. Yeah, here's a gap right here. So what's that at 1150? The rest of these look like pretty steady climbs. I wouldn't call any of the rest of them gaps. This was a gap, but it came back down and filled it in. This is not really a gap, even though it's got a big candle. You had a candle right here and then a candle right here. They're pretty close. I wouldn't really pay much attention to that. I think price is underneath it anyway. 1150 is kind of the area that I would be looking for on the gap. So now let's look at and see what the trend targets look like. Yeah, look at that. Lines up very, very closely with that 1137 target. So you'd have something that, you know, potentially looks like this on BNB. That's what I would be watching for. You know, I don't know that I'd want to long it there, to be totally honest with you, because it's not much of a lower low compared to, you know, where its last low was. I'd probably want to wait and see if this puts in some nice consolidation before getting too bullish on it. But I will say that BNB is one of the few coins that has an actual, like a real use case, right? And it did really well in 2018 compared to most alts. So it's been a pretty solid investment overall for most people. I mean, it fell at the end of 2018 like, you know, pretty much everything did. But if you look, you know, it only fell down to about $4, a little over $4. And this is a coin that in late 2017, you know, before the blow-off top was sitting around $2. So, you know, you would have only been underwater if you invested at the, like almost at the exact top. So it's been a pretty good performer. Okay, if we look at some Fibonacci levels on a non-log chart, let's take a look. Yeah, look at that. So that $10-ish area or $11.50 area, I guess, it lines up almost perfectly with the 78.6 Fibonacci level. So again, I think that's the level that me personally, I'd like to keep an eye on. I don't really have a bunch of Tether. I think I have like $300 in Tether from just like some random dust that I cashed in. So I don't really do BNB trading, but you know, I don't know. Maybe I'll throw $300 on it or something if it gets down to that level, and maybe on a little bit of a punt. So, but that's the level that I'm interested in. Okay. Overall, right now, I just don't see any reason to be bullish. Okay. If you're not interested in shorting Bitcoin, you know, I totally understand that. You don't have to short Bitcoin to make money in a bear market, right? If you're still a Bitcoin bull, big picture, if you still believe in Bitcoin long term, you know, sometimes just waiting to buy back is just, you know, it's pretty good on its own, right? I mean, look at all the people who decided not to buy Bitcoin at $13,000, $14,000, right? It's down so far now that they're going to be able to buy back almost twice as much as if they had bought then. And if you just keep waiting, and if it does go down to 4,000, you know, those people are going to be buying back more than 3 times as much Bitcoin as they sold. So you don't necessarily have to short it if you're nervous about shorting it. You can kind of take the safer route and just not buy it, right? So with all that being said, guys, we're getting up on 30 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap the video up here. Please remember that I am literally some guy sitting in a spare bedroom, so nothing in this video is financial advice, nothing in the video is trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence and seek out professional investment advice before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency. Also, don't forget to check the description for links where you can follow me on TradingView, Twitter, where you can join my free Facebook group, and of course, where you can join my paid trading group. Well, it's a course, not a group. My paid trading course if you'd like to learn how to trade. This is James with Crypto Common Sense. Trade safe.